It is always a great sign when you get 3 or 4 minutes into filming a YouTube episode and realize that you left your notes in the other room and have to go get it. So we're going to start this all over again. I will see you on the other side. Hello and welcome to episode 61 of Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a Craftivism podcast at the intersection of making things and doing good. My name is Gary. I'm a knitter and a crocheter and a sometimes designer. And every couple of weeks, I come to this little corner of YouTube to share what I've been working on and to share with you a few ideas on how we can all take our love of crafting and do a little bit of good in the world. You can find me on social media on Ravelry as Gary Knits and Rides, and over on Blue Sky as just Gary Knits. And here is a QR code that will take you to today's show notes. So everything that I mentioned today, from dyers to designers to Craftivism ideas, is going to be linked in the show notes. And if you're watching this not on your mobile device, you can use that QR code, just scan it, and it'll take you right to the document. I hope everyone is well. I am back in the dining area, taking advantage of a bit of an empty house, although Julieta is here with me. She's being quiet right now, and I imagine she will be unless someone comes to the door. But I thought I'd come back out here despite the echo, just because it's nice to do this in natural lighting and have a little more space here at the dining room table. It has been a fun couple of weeks. Spring seems to have sprung here. I know Easter is right around the corner, as is Passover, so it feels like spring. Although I did just see someone post on their grid a snowstorm. I think it was upstate New York this last week, so good luck with that. It's pretty pleasant. Been pretty pleasant here, but it's been a fun couple of weeks. Had a concert at the LA Philharmonic last Friday. It was the Four Seasons. The principal violinist of the LA Phil, whose name I don't remember, was the soloist. I wasn't super excited about seeing Four Seasons because it seems like you can turn on any TV commercial and hear parts of it. But the conductor was really, really fun. He was a guy from the UK and is a sort of expert on that period. And the whole program was, that sort of from Vivaldi, I think, forward probably. And he was just this wonderful, jolly, fun, lively guy on the podium. So that was kind of fun. I enjoyed the other part of the program more. It was a dance from Mozart ballet. Can't remember the name of it. Began with an I. And then a Haydn Symphony, the Surprise Symphony. So it was fun. It was a fun program. I like I said, I enjoyed the second half a bit more than Four Seasons, which was lovely, but is fairly produced a lot, I think, or I hear it a lot. Anyway, but also got to do Sip and Stitch last week with one of my local knitting groups. I've not been able to do a ton of social crafting in the last few weeks. Just the timing of my typical Thursday afternoon at the library has been screwed up with other activities. This week it looks like I'm also going to have to miss that because of some garage door issues we're having here. So it was nice to be able to go with the local drunken knitters group to the wine bar where we go once a month and hang out with those folks. It's a really fun group, and I had a good time working on, I don't remember what I took with me to work on there. Maybe tried one of the Raglans that are trying to kill me. And that was one of the reasons why it was a problem, is because I tried to do it social knitting wise and just messed everything up. I also had one of my dear friends, actually the recipient of the Kurdock blanket, if you remember that from last year, that beautiful Carol Feller cable patterned blanket that I made as a housewarming gift. the recipient of that came to visit for the weekend, and that was really cool. We got to hang out, go downtown. She is also a alumni of the AIDS Life Cycle. So we had dinner with the CEO of the LGBT Center and his husband. So it was great to catch up with those guys and see how everything's going with this year's ride. And then what else has gone on? No theater. I did finish my first novel in Italian, not writing it, but reading it. For those of you who may be relatively new, I studied Italian. When we first moved out to California, I started studying Italian and did that for about 2 years. One of our neighbors was a Romance language tutor, and so I studied with her, and then she got a full-time teaching gig and stopped tutoring, and so I probably took a break for a couple of years, and then about 6 or 7 months ago, I met another woman who is from Bergamo, and she is here in Los Angeles area. We met her actually at our local farmers market, and so she and I have been doing lessons for the last, like I said, 6 or 7 months. And a month or two ago, I started reading my first novel in Italian. So I just finished that, which was great. Helpful. It was a book I had already read in English, so that was helpful in terms of like I kind of knew, the story. But it's been a great experience. The book is highly recommend. It's a YA novel about 2 Mexican-American boys growing up in El Paso in the 80s. It's called Dante and Aristotle, or Aristotle and Dante, discover the secrets of the universe, or in Italian, Dante e Aristotle, scoprono I segreti dell'universo. But it's really cute, LGBTQ themed, but not super heavy on that, at least in the first book. There's a sequel to it, which I've now just ordered from Italy, and we're going to start reading that. And it's just a lovely, lovely, really, really sweet story. So if you've ever watched like Heartstopper, then you liked that, enjoyed that, then you probably would enjoy this novel. So be that as may. The other fun thing that's been going on is I am participating in the sock swap, which is, I think this is the second year that she's doing it. So Rachel from the Pearls and Polish podcast and the Knotted Knitter, whose name I don't remember, are now doing it together this year. And it's basically, a exchange between knitters. I think this year they opened it up to kind of any weight of yarn, but originally it was like sock yarn, because Rachel, and if you're not subscribing or watching her podcast, I highly recommend it. She's a prolific sock knitter, and I've gotten so many great not tips, but also like pattern ideas from her. So she organizes it, and you get someone's name from somewhere in the world, and you can say whether or not you'll ship internationally, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get to know each other and find out, what things you all like, and then you send them something and they send you something. So I had a great time with it last year. A lovely young woman from Australia, so I got some local yarn to Australia as well, some little goodies. So that was fun. So I decided to do it again, and my swap partner is Rachel from the Pearls and Polish podcast. So that's really been great. She's also out here in California. And I am not going to say what I've been gathering things and really having fun putting together a little care package for her with some little stuff for her family as well. So that's been a ton of fun, and that'll go out probably, I think they have to go out sometime around the 1st of May. So there's a couple of things I still want to get in there, but that's been a ton of fun. So go check out Pearls and Polish podcast if you haven't. I have not watched Knotted Knitter, but I put it on in my queue to check out one of her episodes as well. So I think that is about it in terms of life stuff going on in the weeks ahead. I don't know that there's anything big going on. It's just things have gotten kind of busy, it seems like, in the last few months, last few weeks, notwithstanding everything else that is going on out there in the world. In terms of Craftivism this time, and thank you all for people who have sent in suggestions for Craftivism ideas. I appreciate that. And it's very, very helpful for me since I'm not seeing nearly as many things as I used to because I'm trying to spend less time on social media generally and Instagram in particular. But I do have some ideas from the things that have come across my feed in the last week or so. The first one, and it's really a great week for stuff because it's very activism-y kind of crafting ideas as well. So the first one is from a designer called Very Busy Monkey, and she has designed this pair of socks. They are called the Indivisible socks, inspired by, I think, the Indivisible Project. And through the end of April, she is donating 20% of all of the pattern sales to Democracy Forward, which is a legal organization that is fighting for human rights, democracy through the courts during this sort of hostile takeover of the government, trying to push back on all of the worst parts of the Republican agenda. So 20% of the pattern sales are going to be donated to Democracy Forward. They're very, very pretty, lacy kind of. So this may be I just bought the pattern today, so it may be a future knitting socks because that is truly my newest obsession, or knitting socks. The second one, and these two local ideas. So one, if you're here in Southern California, one, if you are in New York, although that one you can do remotely as well. So for those of you here in Southern California, specifically in the LA area, I've mentioned a couple times that my friend Tracy at Love Petals Crochet Boutique, which is in the Crafted Port of LA complex. It's a big, two big warehouses down by the port in San Pedro that are set up as sort of like a craft market. Lots of different little booths, not just crafts, antiques, food, vendors of various types are in there. Tracy has a little crochet boutique where she sells her designs as well as does some things with some other folks as well, teaches classes, etc. And a couple months ago, so after the fires, she put out the call on social media for folks to send in knitted or crochet squares, any size, any weight, and she was going to collect those and then through some social knitting activities have folks piece them together to make blankets to then distribute to folks who lost everything in the Altadena fires, the Palisades fires here in Southern California earlier this year. So she's been collecting them. She's gotten hundreds of them from all over the country. She's done a couple of these sip and stitch, get together, piece things together. I just went down last Sunday. She did another one, and we worked for a couple hours on putting some blankets together. She has gotten so many squares that she's now asking folks to not send squares anymore, but she needs all hands on deck to put these things together. So on the 27th, it's a Sunday, so double check my date, but I think that's right. It's the 27th, starting at noon and going until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon at the Crafted Port of LA complex. She is going to have another one of the sip and stitches for folks to come and help put together the blankets. Like I said, last time when I was there on Sunday, she had just gotten someone, I can't even remember where the woman was from, like Ohio or something. It's a giant box full of, these were motifs that were circular, but I think you could stretch them and turn them into squares, like hundreds of them. And then there was another box that had her. So she's got a ton of squares, and she really wants to get these blankets out the door to start getting them into people's hands. So if you're around in the LA area, it's a really cool space down there. There's a lot of really cool things to little boutiques and things to pop your head into, as well as food and stuff like that. Come on down on the 27th. Help us out to let's get these blankets put to bed. The other one that is a local event. This is a yarn and needlepoint store in New York City, up on the Upper East Side, is called Annie and Co. And they are collecting donations of scrap yarn, any weight, any color, just not little teeny bits of scrap. They mean like things that you could make a scrappy project out of, just not little cuttings of yarn. And they're collecting donations through the 21st. So you got about a week at the store, or you can mail them in. The address is linked down below. And they're collecting those scraps because then on the 26th of April, they're going to have a knit-a-thon, I think in the store, maybe it's also virtual, making items for Knit the Rainbow for when they start collecting again in the fall. So if you have, like all of us do probably, lots of half balls or quarter balls of yarn, and you live in the New York area, gather those up, take them to the store. If not, throw them in a mailing pouch and send them to the store, and then they will have plenty of supplies for folks who want to participate in the knit-a-thon for Knit the Rainbow coming up here at the end of the month. So those are kind of the two local-ish ones. The other one that I saw that made me smile, but just because I love the company, I've bought their products, and they are always doing fun and sort of fun and funny projects. It's the Malicious Woman Co. They generally make candles. They have some other products as well, but what they're sort of mainly known for are candles. And they do a lot of different fundraisers and things like this, but they're doing one right now. It's called Bitches Against Trump's Bullshit Candle, and it is a fundraiser. 100% of the proceeds are for that particular candle, and this is, I think, it's limited edition. I didn't see on the website that there's a particular time frame on there, but 100% of the proceeds of that candle are going to be donated to the family of Kilmar Garcia, who is the man from Maryland who got swept up in one of these illegal deportation sweeps and taken to the concentration camp in El Salvador, even though he has, I think he has been arrested for loitering at one point in his life, and then was let out of prison by Trump the last time in 2019, and now is down there in the torture camp. And even though the government has been ordered to bring him back, if you watched the news yesterday, you saw that both our leader and the leader of El Salvador have said they're not going to bring him back. So they are raising money for his family while they fight to get him out of the concentration camp and get him back home. So the cool thing about this, I mean, their candles are fantastic. I posted a couple weeks ago. I also have bought their refill packs, so you can recycle the vessels and just you put them in the microwave and pour the wax in. Worked amazingly well. Love that. But the cool thing about this, in addition to it being a fundraiser, is that you can pick your scent. So the fundraiser is on almost, I think, all of the scents of candles that they have. So that's fantastic. Malicious Women Co. Candle fundraiser. And the last one I want to mention is Knit Stars. So as you may know, last year I was part of Knit Stars Season 9. I had a masterclass on Craftivism and running a knit-along and running fundraisers using your crafting, and had a really fun time. It was really one of the most fun things that I've gotten to do since I've gotten involved in this whole crafting and knitting industry. This is the 10th year of Knit Stars, so they are going very big with their plans. They just opened up the early bird window for you to pre-order the 10th anniversary season. There'll be a link down there, linked below for that. The cool thing about this is, if you've never experienced Knit Stars, it's an amazing product. It is very high quality production in terms of the master classes, beautifully filmed. And I've found a huge amount of value in the classes. If you don't have access to a local yarn store where you can take classes, or a big one where people come in from around the world or around the country to teach classes, I mean, it's a great way to pick up some new skills, learn some new things from people who really know what they've been doing and been doing it for quite a while, especially on the technique side. And I think they are pricey. I will say that it's not probably in everyone's budget. I think if you really use the product and price it out per class, I think it's more, it's definitely reasonable relative to kind of what you would pay at a yarn festival or something for a class. I think it is very close to that kind of pricing. But the cool thing about this season of Knit Stars is they're doing 10 knitting stars, and they've done some crochet in the past, but this time they're adding 5 crochet stars as well. So there are 15 of them. How this ties into Craftivism is that Knit Stars has, I don't know, they definitely did it, in my season. They always make a donation to some charity for each season. This year, they're letting each of the stars pick their own charity, and they're donating $1,000 to each of those charities, which is fantastic. So that's $15,000, right off the bat. And there's a bunch of really cool different charities that the different folks have chosen. They just released the list of people who are teaching. And there's some really great, Franklin Habit is in there. I know local here to me, London K on the crochet side. The Modern Day Daily Knitting team are doing kind of encore, not encore in that they're doing the same thing, but they've come back for another season. So it's a really great roster of folks. I think it's 10,000 people. If they sell 10,000 subscriptions, which is a big number, Knit Stars is going to increase those donations to $10,000 per star. So there's a huge opportunity to do some amazing fundraising for a lot of really worthy causes there. So if you are a Knit Stars subscriber, if you've never tried them before, and that's something that sounds interesting to you, go check that out, because it's a really cool way to help raise a bunch of money for charities as well. So that is it for Craftivism this week. Keep calling your Congress people about all of the things that are going on. The protests that happened around the country a couple of weeks ago were fantastic, a great show of strength. There are now more of those coming down the pike. I know the Indivisible, which is a group that I'm involved with locally, has sort of said they were behind that first one, and now it's going to be up to the local chapters to kind of figure out what they want to do. So I know that there are things going on even this weekend, which is Easter weekend, but there are things going on, and then throughout May. So to the degree that is something that energizes you, I think it is great to go out and show strength, and to also have some community with folks, because it can feel very isolating what's going on. So check out Indivisible, check out Swing Left, check out 5 Calls, and continue to do what you're doing. And if you can do a little bit more, do a little bit more. If you need to take a break, take a break. Take care of yourself first. Everything else can come after that. Let's talk about knitting and crochet. So I've been working on a lot of projects. Don't have a lot to show in terms of FOs, but I do have one FO. So this is, I'm going to hold it up. This is the Supersonic hat by Martin up north, crocheted. It is granny clusters. This was the second crochet hat I had attempted this year, because I wanted to have something for this summer to wear at outdoor events. And this, I think, was fine. The problem, and I've mentioned this before with the pattern, is that it's a little hard to get the sizing right. So I did this this is Knitpicks Cotton, and I think part of the issue was I mistakenly thought that was sport weight, and it's DK weight, and so I think I probably used the wrong hook size to try to get the size that I wanted. So it was quite large when I finished it. And so I ran it through the washing machine, I think in warm. I don't think I did it hot. And then ran it in the dryer. And so it did shrink a bit. And I didn't weave in the ends yet because I'm thinking about trying something. So as you can see, it is still slightly big and probably a little too long somewhere in here. It probably should be a little bit shorter, but it's a little bit big circumference-wise as well. And I finished it off with great things to my hair. I finished it off with a slip stitch round because I thought that might stiffen up the brim a bit. In the pattern, he recommends the last round to work it around a piece of Milner wire. And so I left the last end here because I think what I'm going to try to do, I may run it through the washer one more time, see if it can shrink any more. And then what I'm going to do is undo that slip stitch round and do a final round. I can't remember what he says, if it's double crochet or something, with the Milner wire and see if it stiffens it up a little bit. And then see how close to fitting it is. Good news is I do have some sport weight yarn, and I think that if I go down maybe a hook size and do that will be closer. But it's it's a struggle I have with crochet, is that especially working on cluster stitch things, it's a little hard to adjust for sizing. So I think it's super cute. I think that if I can get the fit right, it'll definitely would be something I would wear. The colors I have in the other yarn, which is 100% cotton from Pearl Soho, or navy blue, and then a more of an electric lime green, and I think I have a white in there as well. So I think I'll try to replicate similar color story, go down a size and see how it fits. So I don't think regardless, I don't think I'll rip this out. I will try it with the wire, see how the fit works. If it is still too big, it may fit my husband. I don't know that he would wear it, or it will be donated to our local thrift store. Anyway, it's a fun project, and it works up relatively quickly. So I don't think I'll have any trouble getting a second one done before summer vacation, which was the whole point of this thing. So that is my only FO. It's a bit of a sad face FO because it didn't quite work the way I'd wanted to. But try again, I suppose. In terms of whips, let's talk about these Raglans. Y'all love a raglan sweater, and I'm just I'm not. They're not bringing me joy. Partly because I keep messing them up, and the other thing is just like I'm doing this first one is in fingering weight, and it's just taking forever. Living in a yarn and whiskey bag. I love that print. So I popped it off the needles because I wanted to try it on to see how it fit, even though I had no idea what exactly I was doing. So this is the Mohit Tea by Pasquale Designs. I'm doing it in one of my Ride Out Loud or Stitch Out Loud colorways. This is Ride Safe, Be Safe from Pearls Before Wine up in Walla Walla, Washington. So here's where we are. I am doing helical knitting, which I think has worked out very well in terms of spacing out the colors and not pooling in any weird way. I think it is a pretty cool way. And what can I say? So I pulled it up and tried it on. So it has you do the raglan increases every other round up to a certain point. And now it is telling me that I'm going to do like increases in, I think it's on the back and the front faster, and then a few more rounds of increases on the sleeve side. Sometimes you do 8, sometimes you do 4, or sometimes you do 12, sometimes you do 8. I can't remember which it is, but the rate of the increases is going to change depending on which panel you're working on. So I'm not really sure what putting it on told me. I would say that where it comes to is sort of like right at the armpit, which seemed right to me. Sweater knitters, you can tell me what I should be looking for. I'm going to keep going because this has been put into timeout, or not really in timeout. It's been ripped out, ripped back, tinked back, redone, because I can't keep track of the counts. And there's so many stitches, I don't want to count every single time. I thought, I'll show you this other raglan here in a bit, which has worked flat, and I was like, oh, this is much better. Like, working it flat is much better than working in the round, because you're doing the raglan increases, at least in this pattern, every right side row, and then the others, the unincreased bit is on the back side. Whereas this one, it was do the increases, do a plain row, do the increases, do a plain row. And you would think that was simple enough, but the stitch count, it just kept getting off. I don't know what I was doing, and I just have realized like it's not something that I can do really and do anything else. It's my first one. I get it. As Gigi says, it's not hard, it's new. But it's been frustrating, and it's also because its fingering weight is really going slowly. So I'm hoping that as these things go, once it's a finished product, that if I love it, then it sort of gets me over the I hated parts of making it. So the t-shirt is short sleeve, obviously, or maybe not obviously. So I'm just at, I'm like, I don't know, 8-10 rounds from splitting for sleeves. And then it's just around and around and around and around, I think, down the body. So that'll be great. Probably won't mess that up as much. And then we come back and do the sleeves. And I think I'm going to do, I'm not going to do the sleeves as the pattern is shown, which has some texturing, and they're quite long short sleeves. They're like almost elbow length, and I'm going to keep them more traditionally short sleeve. So hopefully it works out. The other thing that I have noticed, and this is, I know, something that always gives me pause every time I think about knitting a sweater is, when I put this on, obviously I haven't picked back up for the neck, but this neckline is way, way, way too big. It's like this crazy boat neck thing, and this is much of my consternation with knitting garments is just like I feel like I'm never going to get the neck right. So there's been knit flat on the back for a while, so it is higher already in the back. But I just feel like I'm going to have to do some modifications probably to get this into line. So we'll see. Want to try to get this done in the next month or so. And once I'm through with the increases, I'm hoping that it's pretty smooth sailing until we have to deal with the neck thing. So this is the Mohit Tee Pasquale design, Ride Safe, Be Safe colorway from Pearl Before Wine. So the other raglan that I'm doing is teeny tiny little one. So this is part of the Tilly the Hair project. Here is a picture of what Tilly is meant to look like at the end of the day. I have finished the head and the body, And then I decided to give myself a break rather than go right into the legs and ears and all that stuff, and do some of the outfit. So she has a dress, and then over the dress is a little colorwork cardigan, and then under the dress, which you can't even see in the pictures, are a pair of bloomers. So I decided to start with the dress, and it is super cute. Let me see. You can't see there's a little color stripe right at the waist, and I've finished the yoke, and now was about to start. You do some increases to give it the flare, and then I think it's just around and around with increases every so often. So again, didn't want to count every single round, but got here and somehow the stitch count is off, and one sleeve, it's two stitches too big, so it's basically just one. I guess I need to move one over, -1 and +1, and then it will be even. Part of me doesn't want to rip it out, and it's probably 4 rows to try to figure it out. I know it happened when I cast off for the sleeves. I probably lost count and then just kept going and ended up off a little bit. But part of me also, it's so small that I feel like one stitch may end up like making it wonky and lopsided, so I probably will rip it out. This is for my birthday twin, a little girl that shares a birthday with me, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but I don't want it to be too wonky. So I'll probably rip out the 4 rows, back to the sleeve cast-offs, and see what went wrong, and then finish it up. It should be moved pretty quickly. This I got a couple months on, so I'm not pressed for time on this. But after I do the little sweater, I'll probably go back to body parts and work on ears and arms and legs for Tilly. So, and then I'll probably save the little cardigan for the very end, the little colorwork cardigan. So it's fun. I love this. Is Louise Crowther is the author. It's in a book called Knitted Animal Friends, and it was funny. Last week I did get to go. No, not last week. 2 weeks ago, I got to go to my usual library knitting group, and one of the women in that group was working on a lion from Louise Crowther's other book, which is called like Wild Animal Knitted Friends or Knitted Wild Animal Friends or something like that. Very, very cute. And that particular knitter, she does a ton of animals and amigurumi and things like that. So here's my little baby Raglan, also trying to kill me. So that's it on the Raglans. It may be it on the Raglans for a while. The other thing that it's almost an FO, an AFFO. Or AFO. AFFO was something from my work life. And I'd hoped to get it finished for today, but alas. This is my Sockhead Slouch by Kelly McClure. This is my walking project, so I carried in my little knitting on the go bag. It is being done in Palette, which is the gray, and then this is from my Knit Stars class, which was the project that we worked on was all about self-striping sock yarn and different ways to use it and play with it. And so I knitted this Frankentube of different styles of self-striping yarn, patterns, varying stripe widths, sort of mirrored patterns, and then sequential patterns, just to show how the different types looked all knitted up, and then how you could use those in a project to create different effects. So I didn't want to waste perfectly good yarn, and so I'm knitting from the sock tube or the Frankentube to do stripes in the in the hat, I'm doing helical knitting here as well. This is my first ever attempt at helical knitting, and it's been great. That other one I had a little issue. Pro tip: if you're doing helical knitting and you have to tink back, like I had to many times on that Mohit tee, just be really mindful when you get back to the place where you're switching the yarns, because if you're like me and just like tink 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 tink, trying to go quickly, you can get there, and you can get yourself in a mess and create some problems because you're essentially unknitting. If you stay with the same yarn, you're kind of unknitting like a row under where you want to be. And I did it and then couldn't figure out how to fix it on that thing. So there's a little error on that shirt that I'm gonna have to like duplicate stitch over. But anyway, this has been a fun walking project. I took it out with me the other day and got to the point where I needed to start the decreases, and didn't think that was a great round and round and round and round while I'm walking and stockinette, perfectly fine. Once I have to start counting, we've already seen my issues with counting, and then doing other stitches, I thought it was not going to be a great result. So this has now become a sit in front of the TV in the evenings project. It'll be done in the next couple days, and it will probably then go into the donation pile to go to Knit the Rainbow. So it's been a fun project. Definitely would recommend for just that exact type of knitting. So if you are a Musselburgh knitter and want something that's not quite as of a commitment as a Musselburgh in fingering weight, sock as slouch is really fun. And I really like doing the little stripes with the helical knitting. If you have a bunch of leftover, sorry, dropped on the floor. If you have leftover sock yarn from pairs that don't use up the full 100 grams, that's a great way to use some of that up, or just create a scrappy project. That left me with needing another project for walking, so I started another hat. One of my go-tos, I've talked about it before. This is the Be-Wind hat from Linnell Kozer. I started this. This is Knit Picks Felici Worsted, R.I.P. They don't make it anymore. And I've just started the design. It is a twisted rib that creates a spiral up the hat. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I've done it many times, and it's very, very simple. The trick of it is you just have to have an odd number of stitches so that creates the spiral pattern, and you're just doing a little twisted stitch every so often. This is a Knit Picks Felici. It's called Double Dog Dare is the colorway. I have one partial skein here. I have another partial skein. I'm hoping that's going to be enough to finish the hat. If not, I have some orange that I can probably just add in at the crown if I need to, if I can't finish it up. But this will also be a charity knit for either Knit the Rainbow, or if Friday Morning Charity's next round of charity knits include hats, then they may get one of these as well. So Be-Wind hat, highly recommend as a pretty mindless, but not completely mindless, and it looks really great in the end. It looks great with self-striping yarn in particular. So the Be-Wind hat from Linnell Kozer. So that brings me to, as I said, my latest obsession, which is knitting socks and wearing knitted socks. I'm hooked. I started these last time, or restarted. This is again something that I started and did about 8 rows on in 2023 when I got the Hello Spring countdown from Always Be Kind Yarns. And I did about 8 rows of the toes. These are toe-up socks, and put them down for 2 years. So they are now the Hello Spring 2025 socks, and I made a ton of progress on them. So I've using, here's how spoiler alert, if you also are 2 years behind and never saw this, these are Always Be Kind yarn. This is how they're knitting up. So Laura packed 2 identical 50 grams skeins, or I think it's a little bit more than 50 grams, into these little pouches so that you can't see the colors until you're knitting them up. I think it's 24 rows, and here's where the repeats start. I'm using Laura of Always Be Kind yarned diamond heel pattern, which you could get. I think it may be free on Ravelry, but there was a code in the kit, and it went okay. I think I'm doing these 2 up, obviously. I noticed on Ravelry there were a couple of mentions in project notes that and I don't know if this is true for the cuff down, but the math on the toe up sock had some issues, and I came across the same issue. Easy enough to kind of fudge it and make it work, but here's the heel side, but you can see it's just you do some increases and then you kind of turn the heel, but it's able to keep the striping intact, and I like the technique. We'll see how it fits, and I should have noted what I did to sort of fudge to make the math work, but I've forgotten. So we'll see how they fit, and I will report back on those. In the meantime, these are going to become my social knitting. So it may be a couple weeks or so before these are done. Probably get them done before my next business trip. But let me know what heel I should try next. So I've done a heel flap and gusset, traditional. I've done the shadow wrap heel. I've done fish lips kiss. I've now done the diamond heel. So let me know, is there some other, I've done an afterthought heel as well. So let me know if there's some other heel that you like that I should try. I'm just trying to figure out what's the most fun to knit. I haven't had any issues with fit on any of them, so that hopefully is just not an issue for me. And so I'm just kind of trying to figure out which one is the easiest to memorize, fun to knit. I like trying new things on socks. I think the next pair I've mentioned this before, are going to be a not self-striping. I have some tweed stroll from Knit Picks in a navy blue with tweed, and I think that's going to be the next pair. And I've actually got a couple of good ideas from Rachel at Pearls and Polish on potential sock patterns for that are not just plain vanilla, that have a little bit of texture in them as well. So, but if you have a heel that you love, let me know in the notes below. I would love to try something new. So hopefully these will be wrapped up pretty fun. I mean, I think they're super fun. Not probably my normal colors, but like I said, I am loving wearing my knitted socks, and so these will definitely get put into the rotation. The last FO that I have is not FO whip that I have. I made a little bit of progress on when the raglan frustration reached a peak level. I had to pick up something else, and this was something that was fun, and I've yet to mess it up on the stitch count. This is my Marled Magic shawl from Stephen West. I pulled all the yarn a couple weeks back. This is kind of a fun project for me because I'm getting a little bit out of my comfort zone and kind of mixing a bunch of yarns and doing this marling, and even though there's a pattern, it feels sort of free form for me, artistic. I'm almost done with the first section. So it's a modular pattern, bunch of different techniques, bunch of different marling techniques. So I think it's going to be fun. I've been inspired by a friend of mine I mentioned that's she's an artist, and so she's extremely creative and does these like amazing kind of freeform quilts, and that was kind of the inspiration for me. And hopefully, if it turns out and is not awful looking, she will be the recipient of this as well. So here we are. But I'm just loving. So I think this is the first section, and it looks. Yeah, I like the colors. I was a little worried that it was a little too muted, but now that I'm seeing it on screen, it looks a little more vibrant on screen than it does in person, because I'm using the constant in this section is the fuzzy yarn, the mohair, and I'm using this. Here's the Mermaid Parade from Wandering Flock that was left over from my Oslo hat, and I've really been surprised about how it's toned down the colors, because this lime green from Yarnaceous Fibers, I think, the pink and the purple and the blue are all pretty bright on their own, but it just really brings it down a notch. But I love how it feels. It's super super soft and light, and I'm really enjoying one, using up my scraps, but two, it's just all this yarn that I loved, that from some of my favorite people in this business, that are it's all getting put into one project. So there's Wandering Flock in here, there's Yarnaceous, there's Seismic Yarn. Who's the blue is from? I can't remember who the blue is, but in the in all the little packets, because the colors are all going to change from section to section. So it's each section has a completely new set of yarns. So it's just really kind of fun to walk down memory lane, a little bit of like old projects that I worked on, and be able to use more of the yarn that I love. So this one, you can see these crazy ends on here. So you leave these really long tails, and at the end of this section, when you're done with the whole thing, you pull the yarn to the front, and then you do this like braid, which is really kind of a cool little add-on, accoutrement, something, word finding issues. So I'm almost done with section one. The next section is going to be a seed stitch, and it's going to be in like a faded marl. So instead of holding one thing constant through the whole thing, you're going to rotate yarns and create a fade that way. So it should be fun. My goal is I'm going to do the full size. I think it's like 8 sections. This is needs to be get done by kind of end of August. So my goal is for the next couple of months to just do like a section a month, and then once I get back from vacation this summer, sort of ramp that up, and that's going to be kind of a front burner project, and I'll probably have to do a couple more sections a month to get it completed on time. So, but it's a great, right now it's a great little project to have when, as I said, other things get frustrating, just to play with the yarn and the colors. In terms of what's coming up next, I said socks for me, but this same friend who I just saw in New York a few weeks ago saw my socks, and she was like, "Oh, could you make me socks?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I would love to do that." So I got her some measurements from her this last week, and she generally wears shorty socks. So I'm going to do, after I finish these, the Hello Spring socks, I'm going to start on a pair of shorty socks for her. So another hive mind, couple of questions on that. I think for the first one, I'm just going to do a standard heel flap and gusset sock for her, because I took the measurements to use in the Kate Atherley Custom Socks book calculations, and that's a heel flap and gusset pattern. And I thought I would make her 2 pairs, so I thought I'd make a heel flap and gusset and then try another heel to see if she may have different fit issues. Like I said, doesn't really seem to matter what kind of heel I use. They all kind of fit me about the same. But just in case she has, to give her 2 options, as hopefully I'll be making her more socks down the road. So let me know if you have a favorite shorty sock pattern. The other question I had about shorty socks is if you've knit a bunch of them, I know sizing is a little bit, could change things, but how much weight, how much yarn do you need? Because I'm finding with when I'm knitting socks for myself, and I'm still tweaking how long I want the legs. I'm still haven't found the quite right measurement. They're always still a little too short for me. I like them a little higher. But I'm ending up with like 35, 40 grams of yarn left. But I don't want to go down the path of like grabbing one of those extra skeins and then start working up a pair of socks and running out of yarn at the very end. So let me know if you have a gauge on like how much yarn typically it takes you to make a pair of shorty socks, because I've got a lot of partial skeins of self-striping yarn that I'd love to use, and if no one gives me any any feedback, maybe I'll just go down and do them for myself and have a pair of mismatched socks, then so be it. But it would be great to know kind of, because I feel like I see people who say, oh, on a typical skein of 100 gram skein of yarn, I can get a normal pair of socks and a pair of shorties out of that. So I'd love to be able to see if that's something I can do as well. As I make my legs longer on my socks, I may not be able to do that. So, but that's basically what is going to be up next for me. No acquisitions. I have nothing to show. I gave away some yarn. We had in one of my local knitting groups, we were doing a sock knit along, and I donated some prizes to that. So I got some yarn out the door, and so I think for this month, I'll have the final tally next time, but I think I'm sitting at 0 or maybe slightly positive or negative in terms of yarn out. So feel good about that. I just got noticed that my latest shipment from Woolens Nosh Self-Striping Sock Club has been shipped or is about to be shipped, so I'll have that to show next time as well. But being pretty good about there's been some temptations recently, but I haven't gone out and bought any new yarn in the last couple of weeks. So that is it for me. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me this week and every week. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, share with a friend. We continue to try to grow this community. Take care of yourselves, be safe, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks.